Simon, it's great to have you back on the podcast today. How you doing?
Oh, I'm really good. Thank you very much for having me again.
No, good, good. Yeah, it's great to have you back. And you're on my show for the first time on video. Well, last time we did audio, didn't we? And then
Yeah, so
I was on
everybody's
yours.
able to put my handsome face to the voice.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, like I was thought I'd start off by like how you kind of got into like doing your podcast and how you kind of seen it grow and people.
Blimey. Okay, so for me, I've kind of had podcast audio of some sort for a long time. Podcasts, most people don't realize, have been around for like almost a couple of decades now.
Mm,
They're this new thing that everybody talks about, and you get all these gurus who talk about podcasting, and it's all like this new thing, and it's not. It's been around a very long time. The podcast that I have now in its current format has been around about, I think I've had it for about 3 years now,
mm,
and basically it wasn't necessarily created by necessity, but it was more of it was something I was talking about on a regular basis. So, for those who don't know or haven't listened to the last podcast I did with Adam, basically I run a visual marketing agency. But what happened was when we were creating content for all these great brands that we've done stuff for, it became very obvious that the smaller businesses that we'd love to work with didn't necessarily have the money to spend to have content created on a regular basis. So I wanted to come up with a process that meant they could create stuff themselves for free, rather than having to pay an agency to do it for them. So I turned it into a book. It's called How to 9 Times Your Social Media. But one of the parts of the process is podcasting. And so I'd written kind of the book a long time ago, in different blog formats. And then what I did was kind of all amalgamated it together to make a book. But I've been talking about podcasting for a long time, and how what you should do is do videos and potentially strip the audio off, make sure you edit out all the crap, but make sure you've got this great audio version that can then become a podcast. So it was kind of, well, I need to practice what I'm preaching. And
mm.
so that's what I followed all along with all of my content, is a case of the podcast came through necessity of practicing what I preach, showing that it is possible to do this. It's not brain surgery. You literally need an editing piece of software and say, render it as an MP3, please. And so yeah, and the podcast itself is doing all right. It's grown over the years. I've got the podcast in lots of different places. It's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on SoundCloud, it's on Google. It's all over the shop. In fact, I think I set up a while ago on Alexa. I've never really tested it, and that you can actually say, Alexa, play the social media podcast, and it'll start playing it. And now loads of people listening to this will have Alexa switching on in the background and turning it on.
Wow. It's crazy, isn't it, how technology kind of evolves and things that we can do with podcasts.
Massively. I mean, doing what I do, which is, I mean, we're a visual marketing agency, but me personally, I try and stay on top of social and digital, and it's scary how quick things move. It's really scary. I did an interview with a chap the other week, a guy called Alan Spicer, is a YouTube expert. And one of the things he was talking about is like the back end of Google and YouTube specifically is already at a stage now where Google Brain is able to watch your video, see you're stood outside a supermarket, and tag your video for the fact you're sat outside a supermarket without you even telling it. That's phenomenal. That's just crazy shit in my
Yeah,
head.
yeah, it is insane, isn't it, when you think of it like that? Like how it can kind of piece. The computer knows by the location where you are, what where you are outside, and it then puts that onto a system.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even using like that GPS location side of things. It's literally just looking at the image and going, that's Tesco, right? We'll make sure we tell everybody he's outside a supermarket when when they're searching for a piece of content about a supermarket or what have you. So yeah,
Yeah,
just crazy, just crazy. We are truly about to start living in the iRobot Minority Report kind of era, I think.
yeah, yeah. It reminds me of you ever seen that series Black Mirror? You watch Black
Oh,
Mirror on
yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah. A lot of people have spoken about this actually. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the stuff on there, you're like, okay, that's kind of happening. Or I think the writers, I think they took a break. I think because the things that they were going to write about was kind of already happening, so they couldn't write about it, and or it kind
Yeah.
of freaked them out. So they they had to kind of write, I think, some of their material because the stuff that they were going to write about is already it's kind of happening,
It was already
pretty
there, yeah.
much.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
a huge fan of Charlie Brooker. Definitely a huge fan of Charlie Brooker. But yeah,
yeah,
incredible writing.
yeah. I saw when I saw like the episode with that guy, he goes into like that kind of gaming world, and
Hmm.
he's with the other guy, and you kind of think, well, that's kind of like you got virtual reality now and all that
Got
business,
VR
and
and AI, and yeah,
it's scary, but I think like podcasting, like you said, has been around for decades, and I remember, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like Joe Rogan goes on, what's his name? Oh, what's his name? It'll come to me, and this guy had like one of the first kind of podcasts. This
hmm.
American guy, he's like a talk show host, and Joe Rogan goes on there. I mean, this is back during the early 2000s.
Was it Howard Stern by any chance?
It wasn't Howard Stern. Yeah,
No.
he's a good example, but there's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
guy, and he had like a video, had like a streaming, and Joe Rogan was sat there. He's like, "This is awesome." He's like, like, and it's amazing how it's kind of exploded and blown up.
It is, and I was chatting about this the other day actually with a podcast expert yesterday called Neil Velio, and we were talking about how actually what we're doing right now is video content, and then you strip it
Yeah.
off, and is the audio truly a podcast and all that kind of stuff? And I was asking him about Joe Rogan and the fact that he does the videos and all that kind of stuff, and what does the video add to the audience? And for me, when I do videos and things like this, and I try and strip the audio off most of my video content, is the fact that all I want to do is help. So I just want to
Mm.
have more eyeballs seeing what I'm creating. But it's the same question for yourself. And I, I would imagine doing what you do, you're just trying to help as many people as possible and trying to remove that friction for people. But it's always that question you've got to ask: does my podcast need to have a video? Does my video need to be a podcast? So on and so forth.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think it's a good question. I think as it evolves, I think a lot of people, everyone's different. I mean, a lot of people sometimes pay attention to videos. I think videos kind of capture people's attention. I think the thing is with podcasting, if you're driving, you can't watch a podcast if you drive. Well, you're not
You
meant to watch
shouldn't watch a
podcasts.
podcast while you're
Yeah,
driving. Yeah.
and I remember I was listening to Joe Rogan once, and I didn't have the streaming app, so I went on YouTube and I had maps at the same time as well, so I had Joe Rogan playing in the corner, and I was driving, and I was like, I kept glancing at it because just video naturally,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, I'm going to move it and put it down there, and
So you don't
so
look at it, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think it depends on the person. Some people just like listening; they might not have time in the day.
Hmm.
They could put on a do what do what they're doing and have it in the background kind of thing, can't they? So there's
Yeah,
those kind of
it's a
dualities.
huge thing. It's all about what creates friction for your audience. I mean, if you are a small business watching this, it's kind of okay. You kind of do need to do a bit of everything. You need to concentrate on one specific area that you're really good at, but not everybody wants to read a blog. Not everybody wants to watch a video. Not everybody wants to scroll through the phone and watch TikToks or Snapchats or
Mm,
go on Instagram. The podcast, for me, the way I describe it, is probably one of the most frictionless pieces of content because it is audio. Like you say, you can listen to it anywhere, mowing the lawn, in the gym, cooking dinner for the kids, whatever it might be. You can listen to a podcast. So I
mm,
think it's just such a great format, and there's always that. For me, coming from a radio background, my background was radio and television, but my main background was radio. It's all about that audible storytelling
mm,
because it's great to have that video and see the visual storytelling, but actually that audible storytelling I think is just so powerful, and there's some
mm.
really good audio storytellers in the world.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think it goes back, even to the radio, goes back, to the war times and how people would communicate, and you think, people would sit around the fire, back, listening to, back in the 20s or 30s, they'd put the old radio on, they'd sit around, read newspaper and the
Yeah,
radio, and
totally. I mean, even with like obviously Remembrance Day just having been and gone, it's that was the only way you could know what was happening that day. Really, a lot of
mm,
people wouldn't go out and buy newspapers all the time. They would listen to the radio, like you say. They would sit together and listen and hope that they're safe and the people they know are safe. And that was the only way they could get the news and understand what was happening in the world.
Yeah. No, it is pretty amazing when you think about it, isn't it? And I think as technology moves forward, there'll just be kind of different kind of ways of accessing the media, isn't there? Like I said, Alexa, voice communication, and I saw a clip. I don't know if you saw it. Gary Vee was talking about. He predicts a lot of stuff, and he was saying like where Spotify is. Spotify is a big streaming service,
Hmm.
and what he predicts, he said, he can see Spotify moving into video as they gain more traction.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that happening, especially with the fact that they have taken on Joe Rogan and Jack Mate, if you're looking for a UK version of, as like their two kind of flagship podcasts at the moment. But yeah, you're right. Voices, it's just huge. I was talking about this. My wife and I went over to Singapore a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I was saying, how cool would it be to be able to walk into the hotel room? The hotel we stayed in gave us a phone, and you could take that phone with you and go out on the streets. So how cool would it be able to go walk into your hotel room and say, "Hey Alexa, what's happening in Singapore today?" Alexa goes, "Oh, these things are happening." Right, tell my phone, and then you can go onto your phone and go, "Right, where are the locations?" And just that
Mm,
kind of thing is right at our fingertips now. It's almost there, if not already there.
yeah.
And so I think voice is going to be huge to be able to say, "Hey Alexa, buy Adam a birthday present. It's his birthday next week," and it goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Yeah, sure. Do you want me to just go and suss it out for you?" "Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine."
Yeah.
It goes then onto your social media page and goes, "What does Adam like? Okay, I've noticed he's wearing a hat in every
Yeah.
photograph. We'll buy him a new hat."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Imagine. Yeah. It's like a random Gucci hat. And you're like, oh Christ.
yeah,
No, it's definitely going that way, and I think it's speed, isn't it? It's much faster to talk into a device and say, "Can you do X, Y, Z?" Then unlock your phone, go on your phone, try and find stuff, and then it's that
yeah.
kind of speed element, isn't it? And
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. And technology is going to help with all sorts of different things. I know we demonize social media and all that kind of stuff, but it can be so helpful. I mean, going into your area of expertise, especially with mindset, especially right now while we're in this
mhm,
second lockdown, we're 1 week in, and
yeah,
I think we're all already craving cake and beer.
yeah,
And yeah, it's I think mindset is a huge area that social media is looking at more so at the moment. A lot of people jumping on the bandwagon a little bit, and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm an advocate of mental health," but actually, I think there's a lot of very good creators out there like yourself who
mm,
are very much there to help people and
mm,
just help their mindset through not just the difficult times, but also looking forwards
yeah,
and what will hopefully be some good times ahead of us as well. Fingers
yeah,
crossed.
yeah. No, exactly, and I think it's like it's a great way to provide value. And that's what my aim, like in like yours as well, to provide value to other people. And like the content's free and it's priceless. When you connect with people and you talk about certain topics, because like podcasting is very open and it's not really regulated or kind of censored in some way. So you can talk about you can have certain kind of conversations in that space that you might not have the time to in kind of normal day to day. Do you know what I mean? With certain people that you may
Yeah,
be around.
definitely. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, coming from a radio background, there was never any watershed in radio. TV at from 9 o'clock onwards. For some reason, with television, they felt you could get away with potentially swearing, but radio, there was never a watershed. I remember a radio show trying to get away with it. It was for a group I worked for, and it was. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was Daryl Denham's Unshaven Haven. Daryl Denham's a great radio presenter, and it was brilliant, but it was just filled with swearing. Week one, loads and loads of complaints, and this was like at 11 o'clock at night, so nobody should have been listening who was too young to listen to hear
Yeah,
about swearing. But it was so filled with complaints after week one, it was just toned completely back on week two, and after week four, it was gone completely because it was just like, well, what's the point in creating just another radio show? But yeah,
wow.
there's different conversations you can have on a podcast, like you say. That there's no there is regulating
Yeah,
to a point, I guess, with the people who actually host your content. If you're truly horrific and talking about horrendous subjects, and they keep
yeah,
getting reports about you, then they're going to block you. But
yeah, yeah,
for want of a better way of putting it, yeah, you can kind of almost get away with anything, really, as
yeah,
long as it's giving somebody some value to a point.
yeah, yeah. No, I understand, and I think like Joe Rogan talked about it once, and he was like saying like the MI, not MI, the what's it called? Not the the FBI and the kind of secret, they're like part of the
Mhm.
government. The kind of CIA kind of missed out on. They didn't see podcasting coming, so I mean, they kind of couldn't put kind of like a jurisdiction or like a
Yeah,
certain kind of like law to say you can't have that because it probably comes down to some kind of freedom of speech, right? Isn't it? In some sense, there must be
I'm
somewhere
guessing so,
where you're
especially over in America. It'll be a huge freedom of speech thing, I guess.
yeah,
And anywhere, well, most places in the world, not anywhere in the world, of course.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, with podcasting, do you like when you connect to people and you talk to them? Would you say that you kind of like feel like you've grown in that time of doing it, like in the things that you learn?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll speak to people from all sorts of different backgrounds and stuff like that. There was a lady I did an interview with. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I remember her
Mm,
story, which is how powerful her story was. She came from a background of basically prostitution, then mistressing, and all sorts of different things. And then she'd taken all of that bad stuff and turned it into good. And
mm,
she was a business coach now, and she did a lot of mindset work and that kind of stuff. And she had an incredible story. You learn something from everybody, be it the smallest thing or like the other day working and sitting down and chatting to Alan and learning the fact that YouTube is doing YouTube Shorts. It could be something as throwaway as that, which is still a
mm,
huge thing in my area of expertise, or
mm.
something so powerful as the story from that lady.
Yeah, no, it's definitely impactful, isn't it? When you connect with certain people and you hear their story, it does kind of like change your perspective on things without you kind of even knowing about it. Because someone said to me yesterday, you've done these podcasts, these people, it must have kind of changed the way you think and things like that. And I think like when you're so busy doing it, you don't really think of it. But I think over time, it must have some kind of impact on us
Yeah,
because we
definitely.
think about things.
Definitely. Just the way, like you said, the way you think about things. And there's a guy again. I can't remember his surname. Tim.
Yeah,
I'm really sorry. I can't remember his surname, Tim, because we've spoken quite a lot since I first met him. I was filming at a convention, and again, his story was incredible. And
yeah,
you learn kind of like, well, number one, my life really isn't that bad. Even during
yeah,
the bad times, it's really not anywhere near as bad as that. Um, and there's always a way out. If you're
mm,
willing to put the hard work in, or whatever it's going to involve, there's always a way out. I mean, his story was he was married to a billionaire's daughter. Basically, he didn't know she was a billionaire when he met him. When he met her, sorry,
yeah, yeah,
but he was married to her. Found out she was sleeping with one of his friends. He kind of walked in on them, went on a complete downward spiral, drugs, prostitutes, all sorts of things.
yeah,
Got in his car one day and just said, right, I'm going to drive as close to home as where my parents live as possible and drive into a wall and kill myself. And just something happened. I think the sun glanced him in the eye as he was driving along. As he got close to speeding up to hit this brick wall, it drew his attention away. He swerved away, and it was just like, what am I doing? I need to move on with life. I've got more to give, that kind of thing. And
mm,
just those stories are so impactful, because we've all
yeah,
gone through bad times. And there's a lot of people going through some seriously bad times right now.
mm,
And so those stories can always really help people massively.
mm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's kind of like the kind of power of a podcast, isn't it, as well? And how you don't know what other people are going through who maybe listen to it or watching it, and then they take something from it and then apply that to their life and change their perspective. And I think that's kind of where that value is in it, isn't it? Like,
Oh, totally, especially doing what you do. And I mean,
mm,
okay, what I do helps people, but it's a little bit blasé in the grand scheme of things. It's just helping people create more content. I'm not really helping their mental health unless I'm giving them a bit of a laugh.
yeah,
But yeah, no, totally. I think the podcast is just a great tool because it is so easy to listen to it as well. And
mm,
it's the same with what I do as well.
mm,
You never know when what you're saying is going to actually strike a chord with a person. I say
yeah,
the same thing over and over again, basically, but just find different ways of saying it. And I've had people say to me, "Why do you keep saying the same thing?" It's because I've got nothing else to say. This is what I truly believe in. There's no point in me lying to you or making
yeah,
shit up. I might
yeah,
as well just say the same thing over and over again until the day where you go, damn, I get it now. And you start
yeah,
doing
yeah,
it. And it's the same with the mindset side of stuff and everything else.
mm, mm,
When that person is ready to hear that message, and it could be
mm,
in their deepest, darkest moment, and then they hear that
mm,
message, that's when it truly works as a fantastic tool, which is why you
mm.
just have to keep doing it.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And I take a lot, from podcasts, and I kind of rarely try and watch the news. And I like podcasts because like people most of the time sharing value and advice, and it's quite positive. Podcasts and quite funny as well. And it's just quite satisfying to watch or listen to, I find, and quite getting out there now. And what if anyone out there is kind of wanting to start a podcast, or kind of do what you're doing or what I'm doing, like what advice would you kind of share with people
I,
wanting to
I
start
mean,
out? But
most podcast experts would disagree with me. The guy yesterday, actually, I was very surprised. Neil, I fully expected him to say no, but actually he agreed with me. You've got the most powerful tool in your hand, probably listening to this or watching this right now. It's a mobile phone. Now, you don't have to film yourself. You don't have to be on camera like Adam and I are right now. But if you've got something to talk about, you might be the world's biggest fan of mini ring lights, and there will be an audience who want to know about that because they want to do selfie videos, or they want to do TikToks, or they want to take selfies in the club, and they want a light that's ideal for them. And then so you need to find ways that
mm,
you can make that interesting for people, but you could do a podcast about that.
mm,
And so the tool you've got in your hand, every phone I've ever had, and I'm 43 now, and I've had phones since I was 20. So for the
mm,
last 23 years, um, I've always had some form of audio recording on them. So you literally just set the audio recording going and talk to your phone. If you've got something to say, what I would say is always have something to say. Don't just turn the phone on and start talking, because you won't have a structure. But
mm,
to have that general structure of tell everybody who you are, what it is that's your passion or what your business does, tell your story for that day. So it'd be, hey, I'm Simon from Oknathon Ring Lights, and today I'm going to talk about this ring light and how it's really great in a 3-light setup when you're doing some video content. And then
yeah,
you tell your story and why it is so great. And then at the end of it, you give a call to action. Hey, don't forget, make sure you subscribe to the podcast for more great stories like this. And
mm,
next time, I'm going to be talking to Bob, who works for Steve's Ring Lights in Bracknell. And you tell and whatever, but it's like a mini call to action. But
yeah,
starting a podcast is not hard. Most of us watching or listening to this right now have got the ability to speak.
mm,
So if you've
mm,
got the ability to open your mouth and words come out, then use that ability. If you really want to tell people about a specific subject matter, it could be anything. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk's a fine example of this. He's like, if you like Smurfs, do a podcast about Smurfs, for Christ's sake.
yeah,
Who cares? And do a podcast about cups of tea, coffee, whatever your
mm,
passion is. But make
mm,
sure it's something you care about. Is
mm,
a big thing for me, and this has gone back down through to the early days when I started doing YouTube as well. Is you've got to do something you care about. If
mm,
you don't care about what you're talking about, then it will shine through in your content, and the audience will kind of realize you're just trying to jump on a trend or something just because it's there. So don't
yeah, yeah,
start looking for trends and all that kind of stuff. Create content you actually care about, something you're really
mm,
interested in, be it mindset, be it social media, be it bottle caps, whatever it might
mm,
be.
mm. Yeah, no, I think that's really great advice, and I think like you kind of have to like love what you're talking about or have some passion for it behind it, because otherwise it doesn't seem genuine. You kind of think, what's the catch here, kind of thing. It's like when you
Yeah,
see these people trying to promote stuff, and you can just tell straight away, you're like, yeah, there's something behind this. And I think like a lot of the time, like for me, I mean, I talk about it a few times, is that I was going to do this 2 years ago, but I didn't because I was scared what people might think. And I think people tend to overthink things a lot sometimes, and I think you shouldn't when it comes down to this stuff, because it's just a matter of doing it, isn't it? And
yeah. And a lot of people, like you said, they overthink it. If you've got a sort of little mini plan in place, it does help massively. But it's not even necessarily the overthinking of creating the content. Sometimes
mm,
it's actually well, if it's not perfect, I don't want to put it out.
mm,
And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And this was again something I was really surprised myself and Neil agreed on, is that as long as there's a flow there, it doesn't matter so much if ums and ahs are left within the content. But listen to what you're putting out and go, does that really add to the story? Does it help keep the flow of the story? Yeah, it does. I'll leave it in. No, actually, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. I'll just take that out. And just does it now flow? Yeah, it does. Brilliant. But if you don't have the editing skills, don't worry so much. You can learn that. I learned editing fairly quickly, and so you can learn to chop things out quite quickly. When I was working in radio, I learned how to edit audio. The skill set behind understanding what sounds right, that takes a lot more time. But actually being able to edit is pretty simple, really.
yeah, no, I think that's definitely key, isn't it? And I think it's something I've been aware of, like when I've been podcasting. Sometimes I'll go, but I think that's like through coaching and through just paying attention to what someone's saying. It's like acknowledging and agreeing. There's sort of kind of like notes, but sometimes I'll think to myself, wait, hang on a second, I've just someone who's listening really want to hear that, and sometimes,
Yeah, you do get people with crutches. What they call in radio, they call them like a radio, like a crutch. One of my favourite ones was somebody I used to work with. I'm not going to mention names; it's not fair. But they used to always say it's fast approaching 1:45. Not literally just 1:45, but it was always fast approaching a certain time. And we sat down and had a coaching session. I was like, why is it fast approaching? Oh, because time's moving really quickly. I was like, but it's not moving any quicker than it ever does. Time doesn't change in how fast
yeah,
well, it does. Okay, time does change in how fast it approaches, but it really doesn't. So stop saying it's a crutch. You don't need to say it. You just say it's almost 1:45 and then move on. But yeah, I think we've all at some point or another kind of had an audio crutch. I can't remember what mine was, but I do remember having a couple of them at some point or another.
yeah. I agree, and I think like it. It's just probably you probably catch yourself sometimes, don't you? When you listen back to recordings and things like that, and we probably all got them, and then we can all. I think when you're aware that you can change it, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, my mum has said to me, I say like sometimes, and I'll be, oh, that's like, but I think sometimes we just naturally pick certain words up based on what other people are saying or our environment,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's we're subconsciously doing it kind of automatically.
Yeah, in it
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like that, yeah. But my dad and his side are from Liverpool, so it's
Oh, sorry. You're very lucky. You're not going, hey, calm down.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry, anybody
yeah,
from Liverpool.
yeah,
I'm only joking.
yeah. Well, no, but it's like little kind of mannerisms and things that you pick up, and sometimes like you're not aware of it, but it makes me think how I sometimes when I first started podcasting, how I sound, how I come across, because I'm from Nottingham, and some of the words I pronounce like pronounce. We drop the A's and the G's and the H's sometimes in the
Hmm.
words. So, but I don't think I'm at that stage now where I don't think about that. I just don't. I think you just do the content, put it out there. I
Yeah.
think if you overthink it or over evaluate it, you just get flustered and you start panicking.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very easy for me to say this, but for one of the rules I try and get most of the people I've worked with in the past, especially when it comes, because one of the like main things I talk about with people is video, and then stripping the audio off. But one of the rules I try and get them to make content by
Mm,
is it's none of your business what anybody else thinks of you.
mm,
So you got to create the content you're passionate about, create the content that you love, create the content you're happy to put out, and then if somebody doesn't like it, they're not the ones you're actually aiming to talk to in the first place. And if you get a troll, even better, because they'll come on, they'll troll you, they'll give you comments and stuff like that. And you just get them into a conversation because the algorithm doesn't know any different between good and bad comments. It doesn't recognize that they're going, oh, you're a load of shit. It just sees them commenting. So get them into a conversation and it just sees this massive conversation going on your content and goes,
yeah.
this must be great. We'll put it out to more people.
Yeah. You could always get them on the podcast and see what the reaction will be there.
Yeah, find out why they're having such a bad day. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
they must be in a really bad place to literally sit down, watch your content, and still turn around and go, "Oh, you're shit." They
yeah.
must be in a really bad place that day.
I had one on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and they said something like, "It's not professional to be in your car," and then they said you shouldn't be in your car. You shouldn't be driving whilst doing a podcast. And I thought it's parked. I'm not driving, and they put, "Oh, they like said something like abusive," and then said, "Oh, you know, some professional to be in your car," and I was just like, "Well." I think I just blocked. I think I just deleted it. I was like, really? Like, you know, what? It didn't bother me, but I was just like, you know, I feel sorry for that person. Do you know what I mean? You got to come from that place, and I think that is something that isn't often talked about. Is that not letting trolls or people who are negative kind of sway you in what you're doing,
Hmm.
because that's kind of nature of the beast, isn't it? In some aspect, you know, with the internet and social media, it's
Unfortunately, so. I mean, I said about demonizing it earlier on, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people on there who help people demonize it by being absolute dicks.
yeah,
But I am a firm advocate of, like I say, it's none of my business what somebody else thinks of me. You
mm-hmm.
might like me, you might not. When I do keynote talks, or was doing keynote talks, not doing so
Yeah,
many at the moment, but when
yeah,
I'm stood in front of a room, one of the first things I will say to people is, some of you are going to like me and some of you aren't. I don't care, because those ones who
yeah.
like me, then a small percentage of them are then going to take away what I've said and actually do it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you, you're not going to have everybody in the world like you.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Not everybody in the world's going to like you. So the sooner you can get over that, then the sooner you can move on and just start creating content that you're happy about.
Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty good point. And that reminds me of what a chef said to me once when I was working in a hotel. He said, not everybody's gonna like you. He said, not everyone's gonna like you or like him, but it's how well you kind of work together. You know,
Hmm.
like you can put all that stuff aside. And I've seen chefs who hate each other, but you know, they'll crack on and do the job. And it's like it's kind of that mindset around it, isn't it? Like, yeah, you're not gonna like everyone and not everyone's
Yeah,
gonna like you. And but you've gotta do your thing regardless, you know, because why should you stop doing the thing you're doing based on someone you don't know is their opinion.
yeah. Do just keep doing what you love. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, that's it. And like, do you have any book recommendations or any books you're reading at the minute? Are you into
To
books?
be honest, at the moment, I'm really not.
Um,
Other than you say, other than like the Tiger Who Came to Tea, which I'm reading quite a lot for my little
yeah.
boy. Um, yeah, and as much as I absolutely adore reading, and well, I do now more listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, yeah,
It's been a bit of a finding the time, and I know you should make the time to read more stuff
yeah.
and
No,
keep. I do keep learning, but I'm learning more stuff from journals and forums and that kind of stuff that are
mm.
online. Um, I mean, for anybody with a business, I would definitely
Yeah,
recommend something like the E Myth Revisited. Absolutely
yeah, yeah,
incredible book. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Obviously, these are books everybody knows really,
mm.
but they're definitely worth revisiting from time to time as well, and just reminding yourself of the message within them. They're good business books.
Yeah,
Obviously, my own
yeah.
book.
I was about to say.
How to 9 Times Your Social Media. That's
Yeah,
available now on Amazon for, I think, 99p it is now. So yeah, it's a former #1 book, so it's not just cheap because it's crap. But it's cheap because I gave it away for like the whole start of lockdown. So from March until August, I think it was. I gave it
yeah.
away for free. And then I had to kind of put some, basically I just wasn't allowed anymore. So I had to
Yeah,
put a price tag on it, but I put it as cheap as I could humanly
yeah.
possibly put it. And Amazon won't let you go any cheaper than 99p. So that's why it's 99p.
That's awesome. And I'll definitely promote, like, your content and your book as well, and I'll purchase it myself, and I'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No,
But
no, welcome.
yeah, again, it's only a book if you're trying to grow a brand or a business online. It's all about just trying to make a bit more time for yourself.
Mm,
Because I think one of the big things for small businesses, small podcasters like yourself, and we were talking about just
mm,
this a moment ago before we started, is time is a huge thing. It's trying to find the time. For me,
mm,
I try and find time for my family, running the business, doing the work that comes
yeah,
in, all those kind of things. So it's all time's always of an essence. So
mm,
it's about how you can create content, but make that content work harder for you, so you get a bit of your time back eventually once you've done a bit of learning.
yeah. No, I think it's great. I think it's great advice, and I agree. And I think time is definitely key. And it's something that I have learned a lot about. I think with podcasting and trying to structure, time and being aware of other people's time as well.
Hmm.
And it's important. But where can people find you on like social media and
I mean, they can find me anywhere, really. I mean, if we want to go
yeah,
podcasting, go on to iTunes and just search Simon Scholes Social Media Podcast. That's probably the best
mm,
place, really. And if you enjoy my content, please do leave a review, because it really helps people like myself and Adam kind
mm,
of rise up the charts so more people can see you. But
mm,
I'm not going to start going buying that kind of crap. It's just,
yeah,
yeah, if you like it, then please do leave a review and a star rating.
yeah,
Even on this podcast right now,
yeah,
Adam's podcast. If you're on iTunes right now and you're listening, make sure you scroll to the bottom of the screen, leave a
yeah,
star rating, leave a little written review, and it helps
yeah,
Adam out massively.
yeah. No, I appreciate that, Simon. And yeah, definitely leave a review on my podcast, and definitely leave a review on Simon's as well, and leave a review on his book also.
Oh yeah, definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Simon, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the best in what you're doing, and I wish you all the best in your podcast. And yeah, it'd be great to touch base soon.
Thank you so much for having me again, Adam, and
No,
good luck with all the coaching.
no, thank you, Simon. Cheers. All the best.